The Rabat Diamond League start lists are out, and it's looking like it's going to be a must-watch for any distance running fan. We have Wanyonyi headlining the 800 meters, Chebet headlining a strong women's 3000 meters, Bakkali headlining a stacked steeplechase field, and much more to come. In this video, we are going to be giving a preview and analysis of the upcoming races, and also trying to throw in a couple predictions as to who I think is going to win. Starting off with the event I am personally most excited for, the men's 800 meters. We of course have the Olympic champion, world silver medalist, and Grand Slam champion Wanyonyi headlining this event. He is one of the fastest 800-meter runners to ever grace the track, and I think he's only like 20, 21, have to fact check me on that. He's made it very clear in interviews that the world record is his goal this season, and he got incredibly close last year. So the thing that I'm most excited to see in this race is what form he's looking at in the 800 meter. He's so far had an excellent season, winning the Kenyan cross trials ahead of Timothy Chebet all the way back in November, winning the Grand Slam series in Kingston, and also getting a 3:52 road mile in the Adidas Road to Record series, ahead of the likes of Hobbs Kessler and Marco Arop. But the fact is, he's only raced one 800 meter this season, and that was in a very specific format in quite bad conditions in the Grand Slam track Kingston series. So this will allow us to see his form in a traditional 800 meters early season with a pace format as well, which typically brings about some faster times, and will hopefully give us an early indicator as to what kind of shape he's looking in. But this isn't just the Wanyonyi show, as we have two 142 runners in Kenya and Chebet, both also hailing from Kenya, both threats to upset Wanyonyi and take this win. Kenya recently took a third place in the Rabat Diamond League behind Bryce Hoppel and one of the two Botswanans competing in this field. Maselela in particular was the Botswanan who won the Rabat Diamond League, looking very comfortable doing so as well. He will also be accompanied by his compatriot Kethobigile Hangura, who came second in the Grand Slam track Miami 800 meters and third overall, only behind Marco Arop in his specialist event. So although Wanyonyi is the favourite, he cannot have a day off, especially early season where form is everything and upsets are super likely to happen. And honestly, Maselela might pull a bit of an upset in this one. Here is some footage. We're going into the last lap of the Rabat Diamond League 800 meters. We've got Chebet right here on the outside, Kenya right up front stalking that pacer, Maselela sort of in the middle of the pack starting to make his move. Now although Chebet is one of the fastest athletes on this race, I'm not expecting him to do super well in this upcoming Diamond League. I think here he made a pretty crucial tactical error. We can see that he starts off in lane 2 for the second lap, and he has to run all the way around, pretty much that entire bend in lane 2. So he's had to use up all of his energy to try and run around that pack and get himself into a good position. And we can see in the back straight he just didn't have anything left, and I think he ran a 1:45 in the end, which for his standard isn't super good. And Maselela starting to stalk his prey. He tries to overtake a little bit there, gets slightly cut off from what I can tell on the broadcast. I'm just sitting on that shoulder, running almost in lane 2, still kind of okay, but he looks very, very comfortable. We can see Kenya sort of grimacing there, Maselela starting to come around, striding forth, gliding past him, call as you like. Even has time a little bit to celebrate at the end there. Flex to the camera a little bit, we love to see it. But honestly, don't sleep on Maselela. He had very strong positioning there. He's looking in good form as well. I think he could have run faster that time if he wanted to. Yeah, Chebet finishing in 6th place as well, so not the best performance for him. And Maselela also running a 1:43.11 world lead as well. So really, do not sleep on Maselela. Wanyonyi is going to be my personal pick for this race, but honestly, I'm wondering if Maselela might even be the smarter pick here. Because although Wanyonyi's times are better on paper, he's only had a very specific 800 meter race, which he didn't win by the way. Of course, he was facing Marco Arop, and he didn't need to put his full foot down because of the format of GST. If he came in 2nd place, he would have won the whole slam anyway. But a 1:43.11 world lead in a very comfortable looking performance for Maselela. With Wanyonyi's habit of front running very aggressively, I wonder if Maselela could sit on him and start striding in the last 100 meters. Kind of like what Wanyonyi did in the 1500. So definitely something to tune in for. We'll see if the Botswanan can pull an upset. Then we move on to the women's 3000 meter, which is headlined by none other than Olympic champion Chebet. We also have a couple of Ethiopians in there, Medina Issa, Taye as well, who also happens to have the strongest PV of this group. Now on paper again, I would say that Chebet is the favourite, given her credentials and experience in the distance. Even if her 3K personal best isn't technically the fastest of this field, she holds world records in the 5000 and 10,000 meters, so she's very legit there, and is known for having a strong kick in both these distances, so you'd expect that to translate into the 3000 meter. Both Issa and Taye have come off Grand Slam track performances, with Taye actually winning the whole slam in Kingston. This of course involved a 3000 meter and a 5000 meter in quick succession. They basically both had a pacemaker in Agnes and Getich the whole way though, so it's worth bearing that in mind with the performance. Taye was able to out-sprint in the end. Chebet is of course coming off a 5000 meter win in the Rabat Diamond League, where she was able to outkick her rival Gudaf Segai in quite a dominant performance. She really was able to open up that gap between them in the last 50 meters or so. And whilst honestly I do think the Ethiopians have a shot of pulling an upset here, Chebet is going to be my pick to win again. I just think her dominance in the 5k and 10k and her experience in racing in general is just going to win out in this one. I think there is a possibility Issa is a little bit tired from that 10k performance. I think she needs to build herself up a little bit more before I consider herself a serious challenger to the Kenyan. Taye of course is a little bit more experienced, but I think she's kind of in the same boat. She hasn't had that major championship win that she's looking for yet. She's definitely a future contender for even this year's world champs. But I think Chebet, with her combination of strong race acumen, good form, and just dominant performances in general, will probably take the win on this one. But I'm especially going to be watching how Tai is able to sit and kick on her. So I have Chebet winning, but again, it's not a guarantee. Especially this early in the season, upsets do happen. And now onto the first Diamond League men's 1500 meters of the year. We don't have any of the big four present. Jakob, of course, is unfortunately injured, but he wasn't planning to run in the Rabat Diamond League anyway this year. Despite there being no massive names in this field, we still have some strong contenders in Brian Coleman, Azzedine Habs, Reynald Chariot, amongst a couple of others. No one's really standing out to me as a definite winner. Brian Coleman is on paper the fastest runner here, running a 3:28.8 last season. However, he has been spending the winter rehabilitating a hamstring injury which he got at the end of last season, and he skipped the indoor season because of this. So we have no real indicators of his form. And on top of that, if he's been spending a good chunk of his winter rehabilitating that hamstring, you've got to think that his early season form isn't going to be as stellar as you might want it to be. So although he is on paper the fastest here, I'm not one to bet on someone who's not shown any performances this year. I would say Azzedine Habs is a strong contender. He's had a busy and fairly successful indoor season, taking a silver medal in the World European Championships in the 1500 meter, only behind Ingebrigtsen of course, and a bronze in the 3000 meters, again behind Ingebrigtsen. Habs also had a bit of a rust buster 3:37 1500 meter performance where he was able to win in his native home of France, so he's been able to get a bit of that early season rust off in the outdoor 1500 meters. I would say he's definitely a strong contender to win. He's shown decent form, has a history of performing well in the early season, winning the Marrakesh Diamond League last year, and of course he's run sub 3:30 before, so he is a legitimately strong athlete. On the other hand, we also have Reynald Chariot competing this, who has a slightly slower personal best than Azzedine Habs, but it's only by a second or so. And he's also coming off a very strong performance in the Doha Diamond League 5000 meters, where he was able to outkick a decent field in a tactical 5k, and we see him here just looking incredibly strong in the home straight, really sprinting away. Another thing as well is that Chariot is only 20 years old, so he has the potential to really show some improvement this season. I do of course wonder though, running a 5000 meters so soon before this race and the travel from Doha all the way to Rabat, is there going to be some tiredness left in his legs? It was a fairly tactical race, but that was a fast last lap, and it was in pretty hot conditions as well. And I think it is worth noting that Doha didn't have any super strong 5k runners there, so I think there is a certain amount of Chariot looking good because as a 1500 meter runner he outkicked a bunch of 5k guys. I'm kind of going a bit back and forth on this, but I'm going to go with the Frenchman Azzedine Habs to take the win here. Although if Chariot wins this, I wouldn't be surprised at all. He is looking in really strong form. And next we're going on to arguably the most stacked race this season in any event, which is the men's steeplechase. We of course have double Olympic champion, double world champion, and world number one ranked in this distance, El Bakkali from Morocco, competing on home turf. But it's not just him in this field. 7 of the top 10 ranked steeplechase runners in the world are going to be running in Rabat this Sunday. So this is going to be a really fun race to watch. Now, although Bakkali has been dominant in his event, we have seen some chinks in the armor recently, as he lost his first race in 3 years in the Diamond League final at the end of last season, and he also lost an early season opener to Freyu in the Xiaomen Diamond League, who's going to be racing as well this Sunday. We can see El Bakkali just doing his thing for the majority of the race, just staying in that middle of the pack, waiting to make his move, and he does, I think, in the sort of second or third last lap. We see Freyu there moving up, and he starts to make that move down the back straight. I think he doesn't try and overtake Bakkali because he's getting ready for that hurdle just there. Interestingly there, Bakkali, who's known so well for being such a great hurdler in this event, really lost some steam there, and you can kind of see him grimacing as he takes that hurdle. He just didn't seem to have the energy left. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in the steeplechase, I'm still polishing my knowledge up a little bit, but Freyu does seem to let himself down a little bit in the hurdles, and I'll show that in the next Diamond League as well. But the fact that he was beating Bakkali there shows that A, Freyu was in good form, and B, Bakkali just didn't seem to have the legs for this race. I again think that Freyu probably had a little bit extra there. Yeah, I see him taking the hurdle very well, stumbling slightly, but even then able to put on a sprint finish at the end. And we look at the body language of Bakkali after this race. I know he just lost his second race in 3 years, so he's not exactly going to be happy, but I just think he didn't seem to have the legs there. Yeah, and you can see Bakkali's body language not looking great, easing up the line. It's very possible this was just a bad race day for him. He normally tends to open up in his home turf in Morocco, so it's interesting he decided to travel all the way to China for his first race. 2 other strong contenders we see in this race, and the next one I'm going to show you, are Chebet and Sime. I don't see Chebet being a huge threat for this Rabat Diamond League. His last 2 races he's looked pretty weak and just doesn't seem to have the legs for it. It's early season, he's got time, and of course he could very well just bounce back on Rabat and prove me wrong. Based on his early season form, it's looking like he's going to need to build himself up a little bit, unless he just had 2 bad performances. Sime of course did win next week's steeplechase in Shanghai, and he made his move pretty early on as well. He was closed down by that pack a little bit, but he was able to maintain it and still have something like a 5 meter lead, I think it was. And in this race as well, Freyu just didn't seem to have the same strength he had last time. You can kind of see here around the back straight, he loses a bit of momentum there on the hurdle, and again, he's not able to cleanly jump over it like the top 3 there. So for me, the prediction as to who's going to win is between these 3 guys, Bakkali, Freyu and Sime. And honestly, it's a real toss-up for me. Bakkali is of course the favourite to win, but I wonder if that early season performance is an indicator that he hasn't maybe had the best winter, or is just kind of finding his form a little bit early season. And obviously this is a bit of armchair analysis here, but that shake of the head makes me think that something didn't go quite right in this race. It was more than just early season rust. And you know, I've gone with the favourites for some of this stuff. So although it'll probably come back to bite me, especially because this is home turf for Bakkali, I'm going to be a bit contrarian with this take and say he's not going to take the win in the 3000 metre. And for me then it's between Freyu and Sime, and I'm going to pick Freyu to win the 3000 metre steeplechase. He looks really strong in his season opener and still had a decent performance coming 6th place in a really strong field in the Rabat Diamond League. Sime is definitely a contender as well, but he looked pretty damn tired and ran a slower time than Freyu in his Shanghai Diamond League, and a season opener was a pretty mediocre performance by him. So honestly, I'm kind of splitting hairs here. There's not a huge amount to go on. Any of these guys could win, all of these guys could lose even. It seems fairly likely that Bakkali will bounce back in the home turf, but I'm going to be a bit contrarian this time, a la Steeplechase style, and I'm going to go with the future Ethiopian talent Freyu winning this 3000 metre steeplechase. One thing I do hope about the steeplechase is that they actually show the race. When I was watching the replays of both China Diamond Leagues, they were barely showing half the race. They kept cutting to the different field events. And like, I get field's gotta have its place of course, but like, they showed like 3 minutes of the steeplechase in both events. It was super annoying. And then you'd cut back and the entire fabric of the race had just shifted, and now you're completely disorientated and out of all the positioning. We're finally going to be going on to the women's 800 metre, which has Segai Daguma returning after a dominant performance in Shanghai. You've also got former world champion Nakai, Gule topping as well, and although this might come back to bite me, I would say this is the easiest of the ones to pick. Daguma just looked so strong in Shanghai. I think she had more left in the tank, and there isn't anyone who I really see threatening her strongly. Daguma actually gets her stride checked a little bit there, so she has to slow down and then mount a kick after that, running on the outside bend. And just striding away there, no real challenges. 1:56, looking at the clock. Yeah, she definitely had more in the tank there. You can even see on the replay. But yeah, I think Daguma's just in great form. She has one of, if not the fastest personal best of the field. Looking so strong after getting her stride checked as well. I mean, that can have a major impact on your performance sometimes, even though it looks like such a small thing. But of course, as I've said, it being an early season race, anything can happen. And in a part of the season where we may not be seeing the fastest of times, I think that's the main thing to look out for, upsets. I'll be doing a reaction video very soon after the Diamond League happens, summarising the results, breaking down what happened in the race, and giving some analysis as well. You can also maybe react to my predictions, as long as they're all correct of course, so make sure you subscribe for that. If you want to see a video on how Faith Kipyegon can break the sub 4 minute mile, then click on this video here. Alternatively, click on this video that YouTube recommends you watch, and they're never wrong about this sort of thing, so I suggest you listen to them. Apologies for the slightly ragtag nature of this video. I saw the start list last night, so I've been scrambling to get a video out, but thank you very much for making it to the end anyways. Stay tuned for the reaction video, and happy training.